Hey, welcome to the show. Today we've got USA Eagle and Sevens player, rugby hometown guy, a competitor against me when I was coaching the Grizzlies back in the day, and I think even played against Camden when Camden was a super skinny kid on the Grizzlies. Ben Pinkleman. Ben, great to have you, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to be talking to you guys again. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think Ben was pretty skinny back then still.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's an absolute fact.
I was even skinny back then. Not as skinny as y'all were. Hey,
oh yeah, gosh.
Ben, one of the things that I always fascinates me as professional athletes is how do you continue to get better?
It gets tough, right? Well, yeah, like it's the day in, day out grind, and then you start to you feel like you plateau at things, and it's keeping those focuses. So we work a lot with this guy named Pete, who was a Navy SEAL. It's kind of like what you did with the 15s team when you came and helped us.
Yeah.
Pete has worked with the Navy SEALs for like 20 plus years, and he started working with us, the Sevens team, specifically in 2016 before the last Olympics, and he stuck around with us. So he gives us a lot of help on focusing our training to try to get better at small things every single session. So going into each session with a specific goal, a specific area that you're trying to get better at. You can still get better at other things while you do it, but having that specific mindset, I think, is really important for athletes to move forward through each session. And then just finding new techniques for yourself, because I think you'll get a lot of coaches that come to you and you'll learn a lot of different things. But as you become a professional, you need to find your own techniques, your own way of doing things that can set you apart. So just exploring all those different things is another way that you can get better when you're at the top of the game.
So where are you finding, what's your resource?
For finding my own techniques?
Yeah. Getting that. I mean, you see, I've read books, and not that it makes me look like I'm a real avid reader, but I'm not. Okay. So I've got books. And, somebody asked me the other day about leadership and how to learn about leadership, go to this school or whatever. And I was like, I just read books on different people I thought were interested. So I'm just kind of curious, where are you getting these, the innovation, the next thing of your play to get better?
Well, so I think a lot of getting better nowadays, especially the focus is on that leadership and that mental stuff. So as far as like, I will read a ton of books on emotional intelligence and mental strength and just trying to better yourself as a person and a leader. And I think that helps a lot. When it comes to actually playing, there's not a lot of source material that I can think of, especially for rugby. So I live kind of the trial and error life, and I'm just going to try different things, see what works for me, see what doesn't. And I've been fortunate because the way that I naturally started to pick things up, especially around breakdown and rugby, like the specific area of the game, wasn't what everyone was doing. And then as I got into coaching and I started coaching younger kids, that made it easier to recognize what I was doing for myself and identify how to teach myself to get better at it and then transfer it on to other people.
Yeah, that's such a great insight that it's so true. You do it yourself, but until you have to explain it to somebody else, it's a whole nother scope, because sometimes you just do things, right? You just naturally do it. Now you got to teach somebody how you did it. Man, that's really breaking it down and getting.
I went to my first camp to coach, and I had a little panic attack. I was like, I've been doing this for so long, but I don't know how to get you better at it. Like, I can't break it down and explain it. So I had to go back home by myself and be like, break it down on my own. Like this, okay, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this. And then that's what I need to see other people do to try and coach it.
Yeah, I know. As I dove in further and further into coaching, especially the head coach role, it's very much like when you break down like those 3 skills for each drill, like you're doing 2v1s and stuff, basic stuff like that. You're like, no, you just juke them out and score, pass the ball. If they're not, just read the play. And then you realize like, oh gosh, you got to break it down to 3 succinct points that you can get those kids to understand. It's a whole another level.
Yeah, because I have different parts of the game that I would consider like myself an expert in, like the breakdown stuff and like tackling, and I can break those down and try to get those 3 points across pretty easy. But then I'll still look at passing, and I'm like, just pass the ball. Like, I don't understand. Like,
why can't you
pick
just
it up
pass
and
the
pass
ball,
it over there?
right?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the trial and error side of it, and especially like in the breakdown area for rugby. Is that a lot of just like, hey, you know, you get blown out of a ruck by a Fijian guy and he had some new technique, and you go back, say, hey, coach, I need to watch this second of film, and you go through there and kind of see how they hit you differently and kind of move forward like that?
Yeah, I do. It starts in practice, obviously. So like I'll try some of the more outlandish things or the more out there things in practice, but then yeah, you get into games and you will break down the film second by second, the small micro details that you're looking at. And like clearing the breakdown, I've become a lot more about my hands. So you know, you're supposed to match it with your shoulder, but like I've become a lot about like I'm going to grab their wrists and just take them off the ball, because that's the only thing that the ref's looking for. So that's literally all I'll do is grab their wrists and then stand up.
That's a big lesson. I gotta say, that's a big lesson out there for all the coaches coaching the tall, skinny kids. It's like, hey, always got mad at us for using your hands. You gotta get low and use your shoulder. The hands can have an advantage, right? Pinky said 100%.
So. Yeah, for us kids that were pushing like $150 in high school.
Yeah. If y'all were lucky, if you had that glass of milk before the match, right?
For real.
So when you do that, this is really interesting, because so one of the things that we've always done on our show is we always take sports into business, right? And because there's just so many things. So when you've been doing this and now you're teaching it and you're breaking it down, how are you breaking it down? What's your technique?
So breakdown's like the best thing I think I coach. Like that's what I kind of specialize in. And so I break it down into the first, what are our opportunities to attack a defensive breakdown? So you have 3 positions you can attack a defensive breakdown from. You can be the tackler, you can be the tackle assist, or you can be the first man arriving. So then we're going to break it into the different aspects of the timings with that. And so I start with timing and speed. Our first thing is our speed or our timing over the ball. So what are the laws that allow us to be in as quick as possible? And what are the techniques that can get us back in the game as quick as possible? So like if you're the tackler, you got to pop your hips up off the ground first. Your hips need to come first because your shoulders can stay low. If you're the tackle assist, then you need to throw them to the ground. But as you're throwing them to the ground, you should release before they hit the ground so you can be on the ball the second they hit the ground. So it starts with timing and that controlling that aspect. And then I go into body height, which is like key for all coaches. I think everyone knows that. So it's then breaking it down to, okay, now I need to get lower than the other. I need to get lower than the opponent. I need to find my height advantage over him. And then my last one is an anchor. So you go anchor and you find your 3 things that will lock you into position before you can get knocked out of it.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that, because it's you're taking a chunk, if you will, of something, and you're breaking it down into key elements, and you're taking each of those elements and analyzing those into the next step that makes them easier to digest. And then I would even say, because one of the analogies I always use, I talk about Steph Curry and making that 3-point shot and what he does every day and how he focuses on those little things to get better, the foot placement, the hand and eye and whatever that is, and that analysis that you're doing. When you break those things down into little pieces, like you said, that Pete helps you do also, and breaking those things into those little focuses that you can improve on each day.
Yeah. And it's finding things. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's finding things that you can latch onto, like the easily recognizable, because you need to be able to feel it as the athlete or whatever you're doing. You need to be able to feel when you're doing something wrong. So if I'm explaining those things, but you can't tell me where it broke down, then that's not doing a whole lot of work for you. You need to be able to say, well, my body height was wrong because I didn't have this key thing that like my shoulder wasn't close enough to the person. There was too big of a window. You need to have those details you can latch onto and bring back to help yourself get better.
Right. And I think, it kind of goes back to what I was going to say there. So as you have those metrics, like you said, speed and body height for when you're in the breakdown in rugby, they let you measure your success, which, helps out a lot. You can really see like, well, I wasn't high enough, but then the big piece of that too, and you kind of touched on this earlier when we're talking innovation, is you have to know the specific areas that you can innovate in. The biggest piece of innovation is making sure you're asking the right question. And you're not, if your speed is perfect and you're asking how to get faster, then you're not asking the right question. If you're asking about new ways to grab onto people and get them off their body weight, then that applies to the situation. You want to make sure you're asking the right question for the result you're trying to get.
That's a great point. I love that, actually.
Every once in a while, he gets one right. I don't know. It's just, it's that blind squirrel finding a nut, right?
Oh yeah, once a week.
That's a pretty good rate.
Yeah, I think you're overestimating there, Cam.
Whatever.
Hey, but I want to jump back a little bit though, Ben. And so what was it that got you started? I think you were 14 when you started playing rugby. What was it that caught your eye?
Yeah, freshman year of high school. It was in the school Cherry Creek High School Clubs and Activities program, and I played football from like 6th grade on, and I played it at Creek and loved it. But my mom forced me to play some spring sport. She got sick of me just being in the house, being a bum all winter. I didn't do anything in the winter. And so she said, you have to go do something in the spring. And I could choose between track and rugby. And I hated running. Like, I have terrible running form still. You can watch me run. It's absolutely terrible.
I wasn't going to say anything, Ben. I wasn't going to call you out, man.
I run over like Hunchback at Notre Dame, but I'm terrible in track. So, and I loved pickup football growing up. Like, I played tackle pickup football since I was 6 years old, and I was actually honestly way better at that than I ever was at football. Like, I would dominate pickup football games without the pads. And then I was okay at football, but never really that good. And so I went to my first rugby practice. Obviously super confusing. No one gets it their first time. The rules make no sense. Super lost. But then you play in the first game, and it's just so much fun. Like, it is basically at its rawest form pickup football. You're running with the ball. You're tackling people. You're trying to score. And that, like, what kid doesn't love that growing up? So I fell in love with it after the first freshman sophomore tournament we played in.
Wow, that's great, and that's I'll give kudos to Rugby Colorado for doing those fresh sophomore Monday night matches. That's what got Camden hooked in the game too. Those things just.
How great were those? Yeah, it was like
so much fun. The great level of competition, everything. All the young kids out there just tearing it up. So much freaking fun.
Just learning, man. It's good time.
Well, and that's where I learned how to coach too. That's what I started coaching at was freshman sophomore matches like that. So, it's a great thing. And you know what that's saying is you're starting it early and you're starting it simple and you're keeping it at your level, but you're still challenging yourself. One of the things that you hear about and talk about is how do you challenge yourself? Who do you like a sparring with somebody younger than you? Who's your partner that's going to make you faster and challenge you, but not destroy you? How much do you learn from a match that you lose 60-0, and how much do you learn from a match that you lose 30-25 or even 30-20, right?
And I think that's a big challenge in rugby as coaches. You look at it, it's almost like minutes versus development, because you can get a lot out of playing, a high level game, but also it's like, would you rather practice with the varsity team and maybe get 5 minutes at the end of the game when it's a blowout, or out with JV every single week, getting those extra minutes? And I think that's where freshman, sophomore was such a great complementary mechanism, because it was Monday nights, right? So, you weren't going to piss off a coach by taking a player. I know we had a lot of guys who were playing on Saturday that would still go up for freshman, sophomore games that were a little bit higher skilled. And it really, raised the skill level of the whole thing like that.
Yeah, it is interesting, because I think if I go back to my sophomore year, we probably had almost all of our best players were on our freshman, sophomore team. And our coach I was the only one he'd let play varsity. Like, none of them he would let play varsity. So they were all just developing and like going through that. And then our team ended up being decently good junior and senior year when those kids came up, but we got demolished my sophomore year when we were playing all the seniors, because the better kids were developing on freshman, sophomore teams, even though they maybe should have been on varsity. I don't know if you guys remember that game where did you come up from D2 that year, or were you already in D1? I think it was like the last game of the year.
We were always D1 from
the time you and I were there. Yeah.
We played you guys in like the last game of the season, and you guys won like 107-0. I think that sophomore year was brutal.
How did you keep that momentum going though through high school? I mean, you obviously enjoyed the game, but there's more to it than just the game, isn't there?
What do you mean?
Well, like the players, the mates, the culture.
I met my best friends, some of my best friends still on that freshman, sophomore team my freshman year of high school. That's like who I built my one of my friend groups around. That was like the tightest group of people I had. And then we grew up through high school together. Some of them went to college with me still, and then now we still all hang out, and like we talk about those days all the time. And I remember after our junior year game against you guys, we went and had a party at one of my friends' houses. It was one of the best parties in my life. It was just the rugby team hanging out after a great win. There's nothing better. Like it's just the boys hanging out.
Exactly.
So what is it about? Do you really, let me rephrase myself here as I stumble through my words this afternoon. What do you still feel that same culture with Sevens and with the men's Eagles?
100%. It's a brotherhood.
Yeah,
it's absolutely a brotherhood, and that's just the way rugby is, and that's because that culture is defined from the first day you walk in. Everyone's accepting, everyone's loving, everyone's trying to bring each other up, and that's just the way it is. And if you aren't on board with that, you're going to be gone pretty soon. So everyone gets onto that, and then it just grows from there. So actually, absolutely, being here, it's the exact same.
How could we learn something from that, and take that into like developing a business team?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, this is that challenge. That challenge,
growing
coach,
the
you
next
just
step.
do it, right? It's just the right people.
Yeah, you do have to find the right people, but I think everyone can learn to take those values of being more loving and respecting and learning about that about people and trying to embrace people and first find out about them and grow from there, I guess. Sorry, people keep walking into my room. It's not my room, actually. It's not my room at all.
That's even better.
Learning from rugby what we can learn in business. The pushing each other forward thing too. Like, I mean, any professional sport, it's not so much the rugby brotherhood aspect, but being able to give each other positive feedback that is also demanding and not letting anything slide, not letting your friends get away with taking a step back or a day off. But if we're really trying to get better, if we're really all chasing this one goal and we're really all in for it and not just talking the talk, then I can't let you slide. I can't let you take something off, even if you're not feeling it today. Like just pushing each other forward, but in a positive way too, because sometimes that negative feedback is needed, but most of the time people want to do good. If people are true to their goals, they want to be better. So if you can just give them the encouragement, I think that goes a long ways. It's
about having a culture built around accountability. You want to be able to give that positive feedback so people can move forward, but you also want to be able to make sure you hold people accountable. And that's the big thing. I know I can think of hundreds of different examples just in my shorter career than yours of, you look at all these different moments where it's like, someone comes in and it's like, hey, get your shit together, time to go, wake up, whatever it is. Like, and then there's the very different moments of like, hey, if I can tell you're down, it's not about, hey, Ben, get your shit together. It's about like, hey, we can do this. We're a team. We're here for you. Let's get it all together, do this as a team and as a family. And that's the big difference there. And I think, definitely business, you can learn a lot from that, of trying to instill that kind of culture where you can have the positive feedback that way. So you're building people up instead of tearing people down.
And personally, that's something I still work on all the time, because I was always a leader that was more by example. Like I was never really a talker. So if I go back to high school again, I was the best player on the team, and like our coaches wanted me in a leadership position, but I was never the captain. Like we had Simone Banna, who would always do I wouldn't do pregame speeches. I wouldn't do postgame speeches. I was just there to play. I wasn't trying to take on that role, because that's just not who I was. I was a much quieter kid. So as I've grown up a bit, I've started to get more into that and learn more about that, but I still have quite a ways to go.
Well, that brings me to my next thought I wanted to hit you on was your captaincy. Now, I think it was the Vegas Sevens last year in 2019 that you were the captain of the squad. Is that right?
Yeah. Madison got hurt in Sydney, and I picked up the captaincy the rest of that tournament, and then Hamilton, and then Vegas was my second full tournament as captain that we won. Yeah.
So how was that? How is that different from CSU or Cherry Creek rugby captaining at that level?
It comes with a lot more roles, a lot more responsibilities. At CSU, at Creek, it's you have a club president, you have other people taking care of pretty much like you're just there to try and get the team as better as much good as you can before the game.
Mm-hmm.
With the US, it does come with like, I have to do more media stuff. I have to answer more questions. I have to go do the photo shoot. Like, it comes with a little bit extra stuff like that. And then you have to, just a deeper understanding of the guys, I think, like trying to be able to give a speech that actually taps into what their drivers are, what their motives are before the games. And just identifying those kinds of things. But even when I stepped into that captaincy role, I took the same approach that I'd always taken, and that's lead by example. So, yeah, I'd come out of my shell a bit, but it was still mostly like, follow me. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to work. I'm not going to stop. So get behind me. Let's go for this together. Let's chase this goal. Yeah. And I think I talk in probably a lot of cliches when I'm captain, but it's things that I truly believe. Like, take the big quote I would say from that Vegas tournament that I ran with was "Take your moment." Like, we've been building for this for 4 years, and it was we like needed that win, and it was our moment. We were finally ready to take our moment. So take advantage of it. Just live in the moment, be there, and do what you know what to do. And yeah, just trying to push people to get the most out of them.
And I'd say among the cliche line, it's just all about finding the right cliches, honestly. You know, like, there's so many different stuff out there. Half of them will hit you and you're like, oh, that's stupid. But then you reword it slightly for your boys, and, because they're drivers, then you can get so much more out of them, and you're still using the same coaching cliches. You're just rehashing it all.
100%. Yeah, I like that.
Well, there's no sense in trying to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, if something makes sense, then use it. Why work hard and spend time, trying to come up with something original? It doesn't. You don't have to.
Oh yeah, I mean,
somebody else says something, use it.
It makes me think of all the stoicism quotes, you're always sharing on the LTO Instagram and everything. It's like, yeah, those can do really well, but sometimes you want something with a little bit less thous and shalls and all that kind of stuff. Like, something that's not always going to hit everybody the same way.
Yeah, which is my favorite default answer for rugby, right? Is communication. So how do you work on your communication skills? How'd you like that, Camden? How was that?
Yeah, there you go. Got to bring it back to communication always.
Great transition. Communication classes, actually. Before the Sevens World Cup, we had some people come in, and we took personality quizzes, all of us.
Oh, really?
All learned about each other. We all did different team bonding, like just go around the room, write your goals, write what upsets you, write all those sorts of things down. But then, yeah, with personality quizzes, it was kind of like how you react to situations, how you push people in situations, just so we could better understand each other on the field and off the field. When it's like, okay, he's freaking out right now, but that's just how he reacts to this situation. I don't need to take it personally. Just understanding each other again better on when people are getting upset, how to not make people upset, so we can all just stay in that moment and stay pushing forward. So that class was really good. And then we've continued to grow from that. And I think we've moved away from the personality quizzes a little bit because we started to actually really understand each other, and we don't need those baseline tests. We can actually all go have a one-on-one conversation and figure things out amongst ourselves. If we need to have that one-on-one, we can talk it out in a group. Let's sit around as 12 guys after a game, and we can talk through pretty much anything. We've gotten to a point where we're all so comfortable with each other that it's very open, and it definitely wasn't always like that. We definitely have had the fair share of people who were scared to talk, fair share of blow-ups, like any team. We had plenty of fights, and there still will be fights every now and then. It's a professional sport that gets aggressive. Like the communication now to talk through after it, it's not weird. The communication to move on to the next thing and be ready to fight the next thing together. And yeah, I think that's all there. And that all comes back to having the one goal. So if you have that one goal, you communicate through anything.
Right. And you're talking about the fights. It's like when you're having to perform at such a high level, you have to have so much intensity every single day when you're performing at that level. And it's really, I mean, I wouldn't call it perfect, but the peak of where you're going to want to be performing is just below that level where you're punching your buddy in the face, because you need to have that intensity, but just right up to that line.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's things like off the field that'll make people upset all the time too. Like, we're living our lives, so there'll be people going through bad days, bad times in their lives.
I already dropped one. That episode's explicit now. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Yeah, like going through bad things at home, and like when you're a brother, really help them out of that sometimes. Sometimes they're just going to be in a bad place for a while. And yeah, maybe they need to have a little blow up. Okay, we'll have a little fight. We'll move on.
Well, I thought you had something, Cam. So that's a great thing, and you know, it reminds me of I talk about flow in organizations, and you know, the better you understand each other, where's I know that Ben's going to be in that space in this situation, so I'm going to kick the ball to that space because he's not there yet, but I know that's where he's going. That sort of anticipation of each other, or like you said, I'm seeing that little twitch in Mikey's eye, and I know that something's triggered Mikey, and I'm gonna have to go put my arm around him and bring it together. Which brings me to another thing I want to jump into, that rugby once again imitates life. Is what do you do when things go wrong? You know, because it's nonstop. So there's no time to console and say, oh, hey, my bad, and all that kind of crap. What do you do? What do you do in a pitch in the middle of the match?
Well, I used to get angry. I used to be an issue of mine, for sure. Everyone probably goes through that, but you just got to move on to the next job. That's a big phrase on our team, big cliche. It's just next job. Because we don't care if you made a mistake. You have to understand that no one around you cares if you made that mistake. Sure, they're upset, but we got to get on to the next thing because there's the ultimate goal still. So, yes, if you stop now, for us, that kills us. So just because you made one mistake, you got to do the next thing better now. So just pick it up. No one's going to look down on you. No one's going to be upset with you. Like, we're all in this together, so move forward together and get on to it.
Yeah, I love that. That reminds me a lot of with Engage in our fall season. Our last week, we had a kid who was crying after the game because he had made a mistake he had dropped a pass, and it doesn't really matter too much in the course of the game. And one of the phrases that I started using over the course of the season with the kids was, "How many mistakes do you think there are in one rugby game?" Just random number. And they'd all throw out some absurd numbers. And I'd say, yes, of course, 10,000 mistakes every single rugby game. Prove me wrong, guys. Go ahead. But when you're looking at that many mistakes, and then you look at the one time you dropped a pass, or you put it behind somebody, or you didn't get to the ruck in time, that mistake is never going to be the thing that sinks you. Because as much as you want to think like, oh gosh, I could have broken that tackle and scored a try. Well, hey, your mate next to you could have broken the 5 tackles earlier in the game. There's so many different opportunities for a game, like even sevens, 14 minutes long. If you're having a 21-14 game, that's still 5 tries you're looking at. That's a lot of different mistakes. They capitalized on 5 of them, but there's all these other mistakes that don't turn into points necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at sevens too, like, it's mistakes all over. Like, it's so isolated, you're gonna miss tackles. Like, bad things are gonna happen. I look back to my first Vegas sevens in 2016, and I missed a tackle versus Canada in our last pool game that won them the game, and I got thrown to the ground by Phil Mack, little 5'5" guy. It's terrible. But I was so upset in the locker room, and Zach Tess came up to me afterwards. He's like, "Man, in the grand scheme of things, we're through to the quarterfinals, and that really doesn't matter. But even if it did, everyone would be blaming themselves. Like, every individual would go back through that game and say it was their fault, because that's how a lot of us are as athletes, is we're hard on ourselves. But then if you go back through the actual game film, like, there was 6 mistakes, like game-changing mistakes in the first half and 7 in the second half. Like, you really could blame any number of things or any number of people. So being hard on yourself in that moment isn't going to help anything. It's just going to bring you down more and potentially bring your team down more. So just moving on to the next thing as quickly as possible, ideally that second, is what you need to do.
Hey, so when you jumping back in with the tour, Ben?
Oh, I just had my first training today. It was fantastic. I'll be back, hopefully, as long as I stay healthy, for Australia, New Zealand.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you'll be then we'll see you. I'll see you in LA because I'll be there. So we started, one of the other Grizzlies coaches and myself started going to the Vegas sevens back in, gosh, what was that, 13 or 12 or 13, wasn't it, Camden? And
yeah.
We've been going ever since. So looking forward to seeing you in a new venue and seeing how things go. What else is on the schedule for you, Ben?
So yeah, we got New Zealand and Australia, and then we got LA and Vancouver, and then we got Hong Kong, Singapore. It'll be interesting to see if Hong Kong moves or not with all the protests going on.
Yeah.
And then in the season with London, Paris, and then we're into the Olympics in August. So it'll be pretty full go, lots of travel the next 8 months here. We'll probably be gone 2 weeks every month through June, and then we'll have a big camp before the Olympics.
That's awesome. So you're working on your coaching skills. Are you going to be able to still do some training for camps or anything like that between now and then?
Yeah, we actually have a great thing set up here now. So we set up a program kind of that works with the local high schools and sends players from the sevens team to coach the local high schools. So I'm going to be working with Francis Parker High School, Mater Dei High School, and some others, but Cathedral Catholic, because Southern California has such a dense rugby population. One of our staff set up this whole system when he went around all the high schools. Ecosystem went around all the high schools and started reaching out to all these coaches and to get us out there and get us all as players one coaching experience, but then also for the players get them more top knowledge and more high level coaching. So we're all set up to do that through the next hopefully couple of years.
That I love that program. What a great way to give back and grow the game too.
Yeah, and then Perry Baker has his rugby camp set up in SoCal that he's been running, that I've been hung out with. So, yeah, as much coaching as I can.
Oh, good deal. Good.
That's great. Well, Ben, one thing I wanted to ask about, you kind of talked about the spotlight effect a little bit in sevens versus 15s. Did you notice that much as you were going through your career, as you shifted into sevens? Because I know that's something for me. Like I did not go remotely far in sevens at all. I played like 3 high school tournaments, but I hated that. You're one of 7 guys out there. You're not the lock that blends into the background and just hits rucks anymore.
So kind of the opposite. I loved that going through that. Like high school and college, I loved that because 15s it'd be so little space. There'd be so many things around, so many people to get in your way, and you wouldn't get the ball as much. Like when I felt like the best player on the field in high school or in college, it would just be kind of more obstacles, I guess. And then when you get into sevens, it's like, oh, okay, like this is, I just have to beat one guy, or I just have to tackle one guy. Like it became a lot simpler. So yeah,
I like that perspective.
But then when you get into the international level and it was playing at like the World Cup, it was the same kind of thing, like, but in a less stressful way, I guess, because it was like, okay, these guys are also freaks at the World Cup. But even if I miss this tackle, that guy right next to me is going to make the tackle. We can get back in defensive shape. So that's not ideal. It's not what I want, but like, it's not going to cost us a try. It's not going to cost us points. We can reset. We can go again. Whereas in sevens, if I miss the tackle, that's 7 points.
Yeah.
So that's more stressful when everyone's at the top of their game.
Well, one more I wanted to get to about the Sevens World Series is where, and I'm assuming you'll say Vegas first, so not Vegas. Where's the best city to go play?
Well, we don't get to go there anymore, so I couldn't say that.
I guess so.
That's right.
I've always loved Hong Kong a lot. Hong Kong's incredible because it's like just a great place to visit because it's like a massive city, but then it also has the jungles and the ocean and like tropical kind of area. So I love visiting that kind of place. And then the stadium there is insane because it just goes like straight up the sides. So it's like the whole fans are on top of you.
Oh,
and then
wow.
I don't know if you've heard of the North Stands is like massive party area where people just go nuts all day long. So that's an insane crowd to play in front of. Hong Kong is definitely my number one. And we also have the Golden Eagles there who are like our kind of financial backers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll take us to dinners out there and like it'll be a great time. So Hong Kong first and then probably Cape Town, which I missed this year, unfortunately. But Cape Town's just the same kind of thing. Like the crowd is absolutely insane. They just love their rugby. And then also such a beautiful city with Table Mountain and then everything around it.
What a great experience, man. Well, hey Ben, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you got to get to the chow hall before it closes here. So to wrap our show up, we always go around the table and do what we learned in our little talk. And I'll tell you, I get to start today, or did I start last time, Kim?
You can have today.
I got it today. So I like the idea that you're focusing, and each of you on the team are focusing on understanding yourself better so that you can understand each other better. And that's one of the things that I one of my foundations of my client that I coach with my clients. So that's pretty cool. And I'm really excited to hear that and hear how things are growing with the game, and how, you know, the Eagles Sevens team is just growing, getting better and better every year. So,
yeah, for sure.
Cam, your turn.
I was going to say, so buying in on the culture change early, that was one of the big things I noticed when you were talking about it, how it's once everyone's in that locker room, they're bought in, and that gives you the ability to then grow the culture from there, and it builds on itself. You know, you were talking about the personality tests and things and how you guys grew out of that. I think that's so impressive because it just means you have such a deep culture built into the fabric of the team that you've grown out of your own mechanisms already. I think that's a crazy and awesome thing, definitely, for any organization.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, man?
Mine would be Camden talking about asking yourself the right question. And if you're if you're plateauing or you're not able to start, ask yourself a new question. I think that's a really good point. And that's something I'll definitely use in coaching with a lot of kids who seem to feel lost. Just going back to them, well, maybe you need to start over and ask yourself something new.
That's great. Well, hey, Ben, thanks again for carving out some time between training and lunch, and best of luck with the season, man. I'm excited to see you back on the pitch and see how you and the boys do the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Ben. Great catching up with you.
You too, Camden. Great to see you, man.